All right, welcome back to Morning Live. Before we took a break, I actually read to you that small statement from the issue of the magistrate court in Kiambu. Of course, that means alcohol is still an issue in this country, whereby you can actually go through the whole test, but again, you can now contest that in court. Now, Bwana Wakili, Mr. Himself, of course, Bwana Ohenga is here with me. And, you know, when you talk about the issues regarding alcohol and drunkenness when driving, there's something not clear. What is happening?
First of all, we have to acknowledge the fact that it is important that as a nation and actually individually, we need to learn to regulate the consumption of alcohol as it affects as it affects also the livelihoods of other people who are actually not even in the business of drinking. The issue arising from what you've just read, you know, the decision by the magistrate in Kiambu.
Yeah, sure.
It is not the first time that the use of breathalyzers has been questioned.
Okay.
In 2017, I think the Court of Appeal also, you know, pronounced itself on some of the aspects touching on the use of breathalyzers and provisions of the Traffic Act. Specifically, I think Section 44(1) of the Act. What this decision does is basically to bring out the ambiguity that still is in the law that governs the use of breathalyzers and all that. First of all, it is not illegal, you know, when a police officer asks you to, you know, breathe into a breathalyzer.
It is legal.
It is legal.
Okay.
It is legal.
It is legal. That it's legal.
It is legal.
It's legal.
Yeah.
that.
It is within their powers to ask you to do that. But what the courts are doing right now is actually expanding the threshold or enhancing the threshold on the burden of proof.
Okay.
Basically, it doesn't mean that by the time when you take the test and it is found that you have consumed in excess of what the law requires, the courts now are saying it doesn't necessarily mean that you are incapable of controlling the motor vehicle that you are driving.
Okay.
Yeah. So it actually puts a further responsibility on the police to conduct further tests to confirm that actually you cannot control the motor vehicle that you're in, and thus endangering the lives of the people around you. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I'll just repeat for those maybe who might have missed what I read before the break. I'll repeat it. And this was a decision by a resident magistrate Brian Haemba in Kiambu, and said there was no offense like driving while drunk. Now, magistrate ignored prosecution's argument that alcohol test results showed the accused motorist had consumed beyond the required limit. Now, he said the police failed to prove the motorist was unable to control the car. Now, you see, when alcohol results come to court and there's aspect of maybe you're kind of swerving, there's a video of you swerving. So that's what then it's needed in court, or what's happening?
Yes, exactly. I don't want to create a limit, but there are certain tests that they will run. For example, I know there are people who, when they are, and probably you've seen these on the roads, there are people who, when they get arrested, they become violent.
You're very violent.
They become violent, they have sluggard speech, they can't even stand. I know in other jurisdictions what happens is that when you get arrested for consumption of alcohol into excessive content, I mean levels, there's that straight line that is drawn on the ground.
Yeah.
And you're asked to, you know,
to kind of
walk along the straight line, or you're asked to stand on one foot. Those are some of the tests that actually should be conducted and actually
recorded also.
And recorded.
Recorded also.
So that it can help in prosecution of the case.
NTSA and of course the police, should they be aware of such recordings? Because now when the judiciary actually now throws this away, that means there's a gap. Do you think that they should conduct other things? Because some people can be of maybe misplaced speech, kind of being vulgar, kind of being violent, but they can control that car very well.
Yes.
But their speech is kind of...
Yeah, but the speech is sluggard. Yeah, it is actually, I think, that should go back to the policy makers, and they find a way of making recommendations to Parliament, to the relevant authorities, so that regulations are created along those lines. So that, you know, if you have, someone has taken a breathalyzer test and they are found to be in excess of what they ought to have taken, then the next step should be, is he able to control the motor vehicle that he is driving? And you now conduct tests along those lines, you know, to try and prove that. Otherwise, as it is right now, like again I said, it is a loophole in the law. It is an ambiguity that needs to be cleared. Judges and magistrates are actually within their right to do that, what they are doing right now, and pointing out those loopholes and, you know, to a certain extent freeing people who should probably be punished for that. But the law also has to realize that for it to be followed, it has to be very clear, as clear as possible. Yeah, because that ambiguity is not going to help anyone. Yes.
The speed gun. You see, when you go to court, the speed gun has the evidence. At 11:35, Mr. David Ohenga heading to Mombasa was doing 140 at 11:45 p.m. Now, the police will actually present that to court. There's evidence. The gun is there in court. There's evidence. Now, that's clear. Now, at least that one kind of elaborates everything and puts everything clear without any contention, any kind of a tug of war of some sort. Now, when you come to now the alcohol issue, do you think also, of course it was introduced also during the day, kind of during the festive season it was introduced. I don't know how that went. And Mr. Chris Musumba from NTSA would have been here to just tell us about everything. But of course he didn't make it to come to studio. But from your angle, do you think this law now should be now reviewed in one way or another, now to provide evidence? The problem was evidence. This driver wasn't able, there's no evidence that this driver wasn't able to control this car, but he was so drunk, but he stopped for the check.
Actually, the results of a breathalyzer test forms part of evidence.
Evidence.
Yes. Because the law requires that you shouldn't consume, you know, a certain level.
Limit,
I mean, beyond a certain limit. So that forms the first basis of evidence. You have consumed in excess. Now, the second limb would be, are you able to control the motor vehicle that you're driving?
And that's where the gap is.
That's where the gap is, and that's what the courts are trying to point out. Unless we seal that by way of regulations and by way of coming up with, you know, some sort of a disciplinary mechanism, we are not going to seal that gap. Like you have used the analogy of a speed gun. That is sufficient for purposes of speed, because there is no any other way.
There's no any other way you test speed.
If you're caught doing 140,
if it's a video, there's no way that video will actually show that
exactly.
140.
But here you are caught. First of all, you have consumed more. But you are still okay. You know, you beyond the limit.
Just like a rat in the highway.
Exactly. You can still control yourself. You can even go for a driving test at that point, and probably he will score 100%. So I think it is important that we take this back to the policymakers and people in charge and people who came up with the rules, so that they create the necessary amendments and changes to the law as it is right now.
Do you think now this will spark some indiscipline on our roads, because now someone knows from that Kiambu decision, Kiambu Magistrates Court decision, this will trigger more people now being careless in one or another, knowing the law will protect me, and of course the carelessness will come in, and of course you'll have more accidents. It's clear that already is a sample of confidence to drunkards who love actually driving, while either drunk drinking or drunk driving. Now, do you think also that will spark some carelessness?
Yes, it can. But again, one thing we know about Kenyans is we don't like inconveniences. And anyone will do anything possible to avoid being inconvenienced. So the police, I know at this level, they will say, you know what, we will charge this man. Let him come to court 3, 4, 5 times. You know, waste his time, be out there. But at the end of the day, the message is still being sent home that you can't drink beyond the limit that is prescribed.
It's true.
And I mean, that's the much the police can do, and I think they will continue doing it. There's nothing, because the use of the breathalyzer has not been declared illegal yet. It is still legal. Even the decision of the Court of Appeal made it very clear that it is not illegal. So just on that limb that I know Kenyans will not want to be inconvenienced, you know, at 3 a.m. you're being taken to a police cell, and it is on a Saturday night. You have to stay until Monday.
There's an aspect of winning. I want to be on the winning side. You take me to the cell at 3 a.m., but I want to be on the winning side. Like, okay, I'm in the cell at 3 a.m., but I'll go to court tomorrow, I'll use my lawyer, but again, at the end of the day, I'll win. The convenience and the winning side. The ego also. The
ego aspect, that is there. But as it is, like I'm trying to say, just understanding the psyche of the people. We wouldn't want to go through that. And as much as there are people who would go through it and probably come on the other side cleaner, but the aspect of inconvenience also, you know, you're losing time, you're losing money, you know, you're losing business outside there for people in business. So the police will just use that as a mode of punishing you, you know, for doing that, now that they can't go any further than what is already provided for in the regulations. Yes.
As a lawyer, a client comes to you, I was arrested and I want you to do this for me. Of course, as a lawyer, you have your own reasons why you're helping this guy, which is, of course, the commercial angle, which is very clear. That's actually a generic angle. And would you take on this case knowing that this guy was so drunk? Yes, lawyers even, you know what that means. Lawyers, you're in this industry to handle so many things. Yes, Bwana Ohenga, Wakili, you'll take that case, is it? Knowing there's a loophole.
I would take that case, but I'll premise it on this point. When you're in law school, one of the first things that you learn is what we call the cab rank rule. You, as a lawyer, you are bound to assist anyone, you know,
whether guilty or not.
Whether guilty or not, to at least make sure justice is delivered. I'll give you an example, Nick. There are times you were sent home, you know, your mother sent you to the shops when you were young, and you lost that 5 shillings you're going to buy bread with, or 10 shillings. Innocently. Yeah. But the spanking you got when you got home was not worth the 5 shillings. So the cab rank rules basically tells us that you have to ensure that whatever offense someone commits meets the equal proportion in punishment. That's why you go to court and mitigate and do all those things, argue out. And initial stages you have to try and prove the innocence, but if it gets to a point where someone is found guilty, then you have to try and mitigate the sentence or punishment. So based on that cab rank rule, we all the lawyers here will tell you they will take up a bid.
Knowing that there's a gap and you'll win the case.
Knowing that there's a gap and you'll do your best.
All right, finally, Bwana Wakili, for those guys who, of course, are drunk or drinking enthusiasts, and you see always you have catastrophic results. Either accident, you lose your limb, you lose your life, the worst of it all. You know, at the same time, as much as this law comes in to kind of save these people who are driving while drunk, let's now face the moral reality in this life, because now that means you're impaired in one way or another. You're not able to operate that machine 100%. As a lawyer, I understand your position, the cab rank rule. Cab rank rule. Yeah, I understand your position, but let's face the reality.
The reality is that at the end of the day, the decision is in your hands. Is in the hands of the person who decides to go outside there and have a good time and lose his senses to the extent that he will expose himself to the hazards that come with drunk driving and being on the road in that state. Campaigns have been, you know, every other day on TV. You know, we have seen campaigns by the NTSA, humanitarian organizations and all that. They advocate for, you know, sober driving and all that. It is important that we also realize that sometimes some of these decisions that we make in the snap of the moment affect the people around us, families, you know, your brothers and sisters and all that. So at the end of the decision, my call to everyone is that you just have to take the decision by yourself and realize that you're not only responsible for yourself, but even the next person who's on the next lane. You know, you make sure that at least all of us are safe.
Thank you, Bwana Wakili, for coming to the studio.
Nick, thank you
so much for sacrificing your time. Of course, early mornings are not for everyone, but thank you so much for coming. Okay, we're not taking a short break. When you come back now, the focus is on fake news. You understand, social media and all these other bodies actually spread so many. And of course, Bwana Professor, the Dean of Communications School of the District University, will be here. Tell us more about it. All that after a short break.